Hi, Steve. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. Awesome. Well, we're off to a good start then.
All right.
How you been?
Good.
Good. How's the weather been in your neck of the woods?
Well, we got a couple inches of snow left. It's freezing and melting and freezing again. Now it's frozen again.
Of course. Yeah, we haven't really had a whole lot. We had some really bad rain and freezing going on a few weeks back, but it's been very mild.
You live in Olympia or around?
Yeah, I live just outside of Olympia,
Okay.
so as long as the roads don't get bad, I can usually make it into town.
Well, I did go skiing this week, so
Oh, did you? Where'd you go to?
up to Bluewood.
Bluewood. Where's that at?
That's above Dayton.
Okay. Yeah, I've been to Dayton before. I didn't
Okay.
know they had a ski resort over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Just go past the courthouse there, and there's a sign ski area this way, and you go about 20 miles up the snow and icy road and
That's crazy.
do your
Huh.
thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed. I had no idea that there was anywhere to ski around Dayton. I thought the whole east half of the state was like no snow territory.
Oh no, no.
That's crazy. Did somebody else just join? No? So you're a skier then, not a snowboarder?
I'm not a snowboarder and I barely ski, so I haven't done it for a while. And my grandkids are bugging me to come over to Montana and go skiing with them. So I better sharpen my skills a little bit.
Yeah, show them that Grandpa's got some moves still.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and where do you live at?
Kennewick.
Kennewick. Okay. Is that a pretty decent drive up to uh the ski resort out of Dayton there?
It's a little over 80 miles,
Okay,
and
that's not bad.
and the weather in Dayton itself is about the same as it is here. But when you start up that little canyon to go up to Blue Mountain, you get up above about 3,500 feet, then you start running into the snow.
Wow. Just comes out of nowhere. Oh, there we go. And can you see my presentation up on the screen there, Steve?
Yes, I can.
Perfect.
I,
Okay.
I got to step away for just a second. I'll be right back.
Okay, sounds good.
Hi, Jacob. So the woman that I emailed you about, oh, you're muted.
Hi, Debbie. Sorry about that.
Oh, no
Yes.
worries. No worries. I know you're getting ready for this. So, but that woman that I emailed you to about, it was a very odd phone call when I talked to her. So that's why I wanted to follow up with you about it to see if when she dropped, if there was anything that would indicate why she wouldn't talk to me about it.
Yeah, no, she didn't give me any sort of indication. I just got a voicemail saying that she had thought that she already had dropped, didn't want to do it anymore. And just per what AFSME says is if people are being adamant about dropping, err on the side of caution. We don't want to get in trouble because we don't do that when they ask us to, I guess.
Well, if they ask us to drop, we need to drop, but also
Yeah.
follow up with them as far as what's going on. How
Like,
come?
what's the reason? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And she just didn't want to talk about it. It was very interesting. I was
That's
just
bizarre.
curious. Yeah, it is bizarre because usually people will give a reason, and she
Yeah.
just wasn't interested. So, oh
Yeah,
well.
that's bizarre. I actually still have a note to call her back because I did call and left a voicemail, but she didn't ever call me back. So I'll try giving her one more call.
I think she would view that as more picking on her than anything.
That's true.
Yeah. As long as, I don't know, maybe we'll get her back someday, but.
Right.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to say.
Who are you talking about?
This is a member of Chapter 6 that called me and said that she had dropped her membership and she wanted to stop getting mail. And I tried to engage her and she just wouldn't engage. Went at it a couple of different ways, but she sounded like there was some negative reason that she wanted to not be involved anymore. So
I need to fix this.
Yeah, it was one of those that it was just real interesting. And usually you can engage people and get them to start talking about why and maybe get them to change their minds. I mean, I'm sure you've had those conversations before, Carol.
I know. I had one lady tell me I was annoying. And what was the other word she used to describe me? I'm annoying and I don't know what, but she was furious.
Yeah.
Because she claimed that I never give them notice of the meeting except for the day before, which is absolutely not true. That yeah. I don't give out my phone number so she can't call me and tell me when she's angry, which is also not true. It's in the newsletter every month. And that particular day I had done a robocall and said my phone number in the robocall. So
I know, go figure, huh?
I was like, okay, all right. So obviously something is missing in somebody's mind somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So it's always interesting when you follow up on those drops, and usually they'll give you some reason.
Oh yeah, she gave me plenty of reason. She gave me quite an earful.
Yeah.
Talking about drops, Carol, a friend of mine, Karen Conaway, would prefer to come to the meetings in Chapter 19 here in Kitsap County than she would to have to cross the bridge to yours. How do we do that?
She just has to ask for her chapter to be changed. Jacob can do that for her.
Okay. I'll have Jacob do that.
Marva, do you know what that person's name was?
She'll have to contact Jacob herself, won't she?
She should, yeah.
That'd be the best way.
I'll tell her to go ahead and contact him. It's just, she lives just off the Purdy Spit, and it's a lot easier for her to drive to Bremerton than it is to cross the Tacoma Bridge and go through all that, and all the traffic and stuff makes her really nervous. So she came to our meeting Wednesday and wanted to do that.
Well, good for her for wanting to continue to go to meetings. I can certainly understand about the toll.
Yeah, it's pricey.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, I'll have her contact you, Jacob.
All right, thank you, Marva. I appreciate that.
Okay. I'm trying to get comfortable.
We want you comfortable for this wonderful meeting today. So I've got that we're just about at 1 o'clock. Is that what everybody else has?
I have 101. So
you have 101. Okay. Well, why don't we get ourselves underway, and we may have more people joining. So thank you all for spending the time today to join.
I'm going to remind Sandy Reynolds.
Please,
we're doing it. So
please do. Jacob, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. All right. Should I go ahead and get us kicked off?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. I was just going to welcome everyone. Thank you so much. This is such a busy season. December has certainly flown by, and so we are grateful that you've been able to set aside some time to talk about an important topic, and that Jacob's going to be leading our training today. And all of you, I think, are familiar with Jacob Knepp. He's our membership coordinator. And so, Jacob, I'll be happy to let people into the room as they join, and I'm going to turn the presentation to you.
All right. Thank you, Lori. Yeah, for those of you that don't already know, my name is Jacob Knubb. I am the membership coordinator for RPEC. I'm going to move right on to some of the topics that we're going to be covering in this call today. So starting with the agenda, we're going to talk about strengthening chapter communication, making chapter meetings meaningful, a comparison of what makes a great chapter meeting versus what makes a lousy chapter meeting. Then I'm going to cover some tips that the Chapter 46 president, Judith Fry, provided to me, just coverage about the usefulness of newsletters and how to make a good meeting. And then we'll be covering recruiting and nurturing new members. And last, we'll cover what are the qualities of a great leader. Okay, moving right along. Strengthening chapter communication. So for the most part, when it comes down to communicating with members of your chapter, we have these mediums that we use to do so. So I've got them listed here. Not every chapter obviously uses all of these, but the idea is that some people can only be reached via one of these types of communication forms. And so the more that you're using, the more different types of communication that you're utilizing, the more effective you're going to be at communicating information to your members and getting them to attend meetings and whatnot. You can also delegate some of these tasks to other members of your chapter or officers. I know of some chapters where the president does like the newsletters, whereas the vice president would do like a robocall or something like that. And so it's all about being a leader and being able to delegate to people that you know are up to the task. That's a quality of a great leader, which we'll be talking about later as well. Does anybody have any comments or questions on this right now?
Well, I have a leader that I totally adore. However, she's really doesn't like to let go of the reins. Or that's Sandy Lee, and she's an awesome human being, and I think the world of her, but sometimes we butt heads because she really, really has a hard time of letting go of the reins.
Absolutely, yeah, and we see, you know, we've got people like Sandy who are really great leaders, very proactive, but they like to have their hands in the pot and not have extra hands in the pot to not complicate things.
Got that right.
Right. Yeah, but sometimes, you know, we can learn how much it can take the stress off our shoulders, you know, or for you guys as leaders, how you can delegate tasks to other people, because it shouldn't all rest on just the president.
Yeah, well, I think she's learning, and I have taken it upon myself, even though she sends out her robocalls and the weekly news and the monthly newsletter. I've taken it upon myself to email our chapter members. And I've told her, she gives all this information in the newsletter before we get down. Like we met Wednesday and lunch was free, and it was kind of a Christmas holidays celebration. And she had a newsletter 2 acres long, and at the bottom of it, it says lunch is free. And I really think in order to get our members, when we do something special like that, it should be first, and then tell them what we're going to be discussing.
I agree.
And not make them, you know, long. I don't even read them because it's like, I don't need to know all that information before I get there, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. You know, Bill Ziegler's kind of made this point in the past that sometimes when a newsletter is made to be too thorough, then there's nothing left to wonder about for the members. Why would they come to the meeting if they have all the information already?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a very good point. Yeah, no, that's a good point, Marva. Thanks for mentioning that.
And I'm sorry I'm eating in front of you, but my granddaughter brought me some Christmas treats, and oh, they're so good.
How dare you make me jealous like that?
They're all homemade.
I won't be upset, not this time.
I'll save you some.
Thanks, Marva. Okay, so yeah, Marva made a really great point. You know, it's good to include all of our hot topic information in newsletters. Anything that you know people want to read more information about, they're going to seek out, they're going to be reaching out to you to try to get more information on that. But we don't want it to be overload to where people are just gonna be like, oh, that's just too many letters on a piece of paper. I'm not going to do that. So yeah, any other comments about that? Okay, moving forward. Oh, it's not. There we go. Okay, what makes a meaningful chapter meeting? So first off, what has shown a lot of success at chapter meetings is getting an engaging speaker, a guest speaker at the meeting. And so the best way to identify guest speakers is first off, based on our legislative priorities. So if a legislator that's going to be extremely relevant for a legislation that we're trying to get passed, they're going to be someone that members really want to see and want to hear what they have to say. And that doesn't mean all of your guest speakers have to be legislators. That just typically is going to be, that's why people are a part of this movement. They're trying to make a difference in the government, in the legislation. And so legislators are definitely going to be our priority when it comes to guest speakers. Some chapters have found some pretty interesting guest speakers that aren't legislators whatsoever and have really interesting topics to talk about. And the speakers don't always have to be talking in relation to our legislative priorities. It's just that is where the purpose comes from. That's what we do. So that's the best place to start. Some other good options for guest speakers are RPEC members that serve on a board or committee. So an example of that would be Elliot Weinstein. She's been with PEB for quite a while now, and she's been instrumental in helping us develop our plan to push back at HCA for trying to get rid of UMP Classic. So just having those individuals that have those connections, that they're on our side, we have to utilize that information because it's information that doesn't come from the office. We don't have that insider information like someone like Elliot would. So if you can bring in other members of RPEC that know things about extremely relevant topics that are important to our members, then that's excellent. That's going to be another engaging speaker. And so I mentioned local legislators. The other options for speakers are people like myself, Lori, Emmett, members of the RPEC professional team. We usually will come in and, if it's myself, I'll be covering a membership discussion, talking about what can be done by the members to recruit more members person to person. So any comments about guest speakers at this time? Oh, Carol, go ahead.
I just wanted to share that I did a program with the Attorney General's office about consumer protection that was really, really good. And this lady, I asked her to do like 20 to 30 minutes and then questions and answers. And people were so engaged and so interested. She went for over an hour.
Wow.
And yeah, and it was really good. They won't come in person. They'll only do Zoom at the moment because of the epidemics that we're facing. And she told me she'd let me know when they started doing in person again, but I believe that's not the case. But if you get a hold of the Attorney General's office and you want to do a Zoom program, that's a really good one.
Yeah, that's great, Carol. Thank you for sharing that. There's another example of a guest speaker that can have extremely important topics to seniors, but maybe doesn't directly speak about what our legislative priorities are.
Well, it's important because we're getting so much scam, phishing, all kind. I mean, the seniors it's like a daily battle just to get your mail, your email, your phone. I mean, it's just terrible. They really target seniors and they're really good at it. And so to have a speaker like the Attorney General to protect our membership, I think has a lot of value.
Can you guys absolutely see this on here? Oh, I don't know if you can see it or not. There's 155 spam calls that are all those things you're talking about that my phone, that T-Mobile has stopped before it came through. Some of them sneak through because they can do this caller ID spoofing. Like I got a call from Bremerton School District yesterday and I'm on the list to pick up great grandkids from school. So I have to answer it. And it was somebody trying to tell me that my Social Security is going to be suspended because of fraudulent activity. And I just hung up on them. But there's some people that are going to get scared to death and give them information.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, and they have got so many ways. It's like even email. I got a letter from Amazon today telling me about frauds and how to check for them. Unfortunately, I already knew. Like, if you get an email that looks like legitimate from Amazon or PayPal or somewhere, make sure you check the URL.
Yep,
And
absolutely, Marva. That is correct.
They can fake the page, they can fake the title, but they can't fake the email address it's coming from.
That's right. And that's what's important. And usually it's hidden unless you click on the little drop down to show the details of who it came from.
It is. And that,
Yeah.
you know, and even Amazon is AMA. So if somebody uses at Amazon, AMMAZON, make sure you pay attention to those things. And I really think our seniors need to have that reinforced over and over again, because we're the target.
Yeah, no, that's very good, Marva. Absolutely. Lori, you got something to add on that?
Yeah, thank you, Marva, and thanks, Carol, for offering this suggestion that you have. I'm just curious about others who've joined us today. What are some of the other topics that have really resonated with your members as we start kind of this brainstorm and as we think ahead to potential speakers that we might bring to our chapters in the spring? So what topics have been most well received by your members?
I'm Linda Nelson. I'm a fairly recent joinee here, and I thought it was really helpful to have some of the candidates that were running for the office make presentations. I know it's just seasonal, but it was very helpful to me.
Thank you, Linda. Yeah, absolutely. Especially when we're approaching, you know, legislative session coming up in January, getting in some of those presentations a few months prior is always extremely useful. Bill and Marcia?
We had a speaker on fall protection, and it was very informative, and he had a lot of good ideas about how you can keep yourself safe in your home, what's important, you know, to pay attention to. And I'm blanking on the guy's name, but he just spoke last month to us.
That's great. Yeah, another extremely relevant topic for seniors that has to deal with health and safety. Yeah, that's great. These are all great suggestions, guys. So if you have other atypical ideas for guest speakers along these lines, definitely share with people. Other chapters could utilize this information to get some engaging speakers to boost their attendance at meetings. Any other comments about that? No? Okay, yeah. Thanks, Carol and Marva, for sharing that. I think that is something that can be extremely relevant, and it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with our legislative priorities, but it has to deal with your health and safety, which is important to us. So I think speakers like that are going to be very engaging as well. Okay, moving on from guest speakers. Other functions of a chapter that need to be set up and in play are having your committees in place. So we need a legislative committee with a chair, membership committee chair, and a PAC chair as well. So because these committees are designed to address specific issues that relate to the chapter. So if these committees are in place and can take on the workload that they're supposed to, it takes a lot off of the president, and then the president's able to do more. There's a little bit better of an energy going around because people aren't worn out. Does anyone have any comments regarding chapter committees? Okay.
No, but I just remembered I have to register for Legislative Day online here.
Yes, the deadline is January 11th. So please make sure if you're going to be attending Legislative Day that you have registered by then. All right, go ahead, Lori.
I know in our past trainings, we've talked about having a legislative committee chair and a membership and a PAC chair. I'm just wondering, I know that it really varies chapter to chapter. It would be helpful for us to get a sense of whether you've been successful in recruiting members to serve in these roles. And if you have been successful, what kind of support could you use from the council office? with respect to these positions. If you're having difficulty recruiting for these positions, I think that's information that Jacob would also value to have. So if you could reach out to him, that would be terrific.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Lori. I would love to be a part of, addressing the challenges of each chapter relating to committees, relating to recruitment. One-on-one is great for me, so please reach out. All right, Lori, did you have another comment?
Just quickly,
Go ahead.
One of the reasons why we have talked about identifying members who could serve in these kinds of roles is we're an organization, obviously, with the foundation of volunteers, and volunteers, they come and go for a variety of reasons, and retirement's an exciting time, and we know that sometimes individuals will step forward and serve, and then they decide that they want to travel or do something else, and that's terrific. But that's why we're always building. We're always looking for people who have an interest in lending perhaps their past work expertise, or they just have an interest in getting more involved. And so this is all part of strengthening RPEC for the future and looking for potential leaders. And we found if you can groom people in some of these positions, then maybe someday they might be interested for running for a different kind of role, perhaps serving on one of your executive boards. So that's why we bring this up, and you'll hear us talk about it periodically, because we view the building of our chapters with these roles as critical to the future stability of every chapter.
Thank you, Lori. Yeah, very good points. And, kind of to the tune of what Lori was saying as well, as, all the chapters kind of function a little differently. So, we don't always present ideas taking into consideration that this might not work for one of the chapters. These are all ideas and suggestions based on what has shown to be successful in the past. Doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody, but so I'm willing to work with chapters on figuring out what's the best formula for you guys to have all these different positions in place, have the support for the chapter to run the way it needs to. So thanks again, Lori. Okay. On to the next slide. So we're going to talk about lousy meetings and great meetings. So a lousy meeting, this was kind of based on what was discussed at the executive board meeting back in November, where the team and the board talked about meetings and what makes a good meeting, what makes a lousy meeting. So for one, an undesirable outcome. The purpose of a meeting is you're trying to get to a specific outcome that's going to actually be productive and put some action into play. But if none of the things that need to be in place to get there are, then the outcome is not going to be a desirable outcome, because nothing's going to be accomplished, or you'll get something accomplished that is much smaller and more trivial than what it is that we're seeking to accomplish. Go ahead, Carol.
I have to unmute myself. I wanted to really share how important the purpose of the meeting is, because people will come to meetings with complaints or problems, and they don't know how to get it addressed. Or we bring information to the meeting that makes people unhappy, like some legislative priority, we didn't accomplish it, and that upsets people. So I always, if there's going to be something that's going to make people upset and angry or uncomfortable, I always try to have in my pocket some kind of resolution. For example, the Women Veterans Day was an example of that. I have some women veterans. They came to the meeting, and part of the discussion they had among themselves was, what it was like to serve in the military, and that there's really a lack of recognition of what it took for women to change their status from the old days to these days. And it's a long journey and hard fought. And they didn't feel like they were being recognized and honored in the way that the men were. And so we put forward a resolution that Chapter 2 also picked up and supported, and it went to the legislature, and Senator Randall picked it up and made it happen. And so now they're going to get a day every year that celebrates women veterans specifically. And they're very, very proud of that. And what happened was they came with the issue, and we wrote a resolution about that, supporting, why that's important, why something like that should happen, and just, sent it out to the world. And they had hope, and they were inspired that we were doing that, and they were really thrilled when it happened. So my suggestion is that if you're going to have bad news somewhere, or you have a member who's sharing with you something serious that affects, more than just that one person, it's really useful to help them write a resolution about it, or to take some action, maybe phone calling, like when we phone called Peb. Those kinds of actions, it's really important when people are upset to give them something they can do about it, that you can do in a united way, so people feel invested in the fight or in the outcome. And I think a lot of times people don't think to do that. And so there's a lot of complaining and not anything to change the tide to something useful and productive. So I just wanted to share that point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Very good comments. Thank you. Yeah, Marva. Oh, you're muted, Marva.
Yeah, I turned it off and I saw the phone call come in. I just talked to Sandy Lee Reynolds, and she had an emergency with an elderly friend, so she's not going to be online with us.
Thanks for letting me know, Marva. That's a shame. Okay. So moving forward with more characteristics of a lousy meeting. If there's a lack of leadership, there's got to be people that are in place to help give guidance and direction to people as they have discussions about the topics that are in question. If the meeting isn't moving forward, kind of to the same tune, typically has to do, like from a leadership perspective, taking the initiative to, okay, what is it that we're trying to accomplish here? You got to move away from having debates about the niceties. Another characteristic of a lousy meeting is if there's no facilitation to follow the agenda. The agenda is created with the idea that these are the topics that need to be covered and that we need to take action for in this meeting. This is what we need to get accomplished. And you only have a limited amount of time. So following the agenda is extremely important. And at times it takes a leader that is voicing that to the others in the room that, hey, we need to stay on track and follow the points on the agenda because we have to get this done. So another characteristic is individuals dominating the space. If you have somebody who is taking up all the speaking time on the floor, doesn't seem like other people have the opportunity to speak. We don't want that. We want everyone to have an opportunity to speak and have it be that there's got to be discussion. It can't just be someone having a grievance and then we make a change. There's got to be discussion. Using harmful language, or oops, my bad. Use of harmful language in the meeting space, period. We don't want to make it personal. We don't want to make it emotionally charged. There's supposed to be a certain level of logic involved in these meetings, and you have to think about it from the perspective of you have to do what's best for the members of the organization, not just what you think is best. And that's hard sometimes because those don't always line up. Lack of norms of disagreement. And so first of all, there's a way to disagree with something without making it confrontational, without it being a conflict. There's got to be some sort of mutual understanding amongst the people in the meeting about how to properly disagree with things that are said. So if there's not that consistency, then we've got people that are going about it their own way for how these conversations go when debates come up. And along with that, there's got to be a balance of real talk and negativity. We don't want to make it out to be this this imaginary thing, this unrealistic thing. It's got to be realistic still, but we also can't be talking in a way that's so negative that we're bringing people down. So there's a balance there between reality and just being a downer. Any questions or comments before I move forward? All right. So what makes a great meeting? First of all, being able to provide materials to the attendees in advance so that at the meeting, they know the subject material, not memorized, but as the hot topics come up, they're going to know what they're talking about. They're going to be informed, and therefore their decisions are going to be more informed. With that information that we would provide in advance, we would provide the key questions. The most important topics would be provided to them so that there's an opportunity to contemplate. And then having an agenda, having some sort of document that is law that we follow for the meeting is extremely important as well, because it creates order, it creates organization. And last, using Robert's rules to drive the meeting. There's got to be a consistent process when it comes to meetings. That's why there's so much structure to it. Robert's rules is our dictionary for meetings. It's what helps us navigate them. So any comments on that? All right. Okay, so next I'm going to cover some of the tips that Chapter 46 President Judith Fry provided to me about chapter meetings and newsletters. So what Judith had said is that her members have voiced how important chapter meetings are to them, because it's a living example of how the money that they're spending for their dues is being put to use. What can they get out of the organization for what they're putting into it? And chapter meetings are a great start. This is where people have all the opportunity to get informed about chapter business and about the organization's business as well. Judith has found a lot of success in getting an interesting free speaker, so no cost to the chapter, prioritizing legislators and candidates to the tune of what I was talking about earlier. See, this has proven time and time again to be very engaging for members. Okay, next would be having a solid meeting location. So somewhere that enough people, so based on the people that you are getting to attend, you need enough space for all of your members to gather. Second, you need to be able to run your meeting and have discussion and be able to hear each other. That doesn't mean you're going to get pure silence, but like it's mentioned here, being able to find a place that has more of a secluded area that you can get rented, or some of them are free even, especially if you're consistent, some places will do it for free because they're getting your business. So next would be having a free or subsidized lunch for the chapter meeting. Some chapters do offer free meals for attendees. Judith's chapter does, they call it a $5 copay. So each member pays $5 into the chapter at each chapter meeting, and then their meal is covered up to $20. That there's still some chapters that don't offer any sort of free meals, subsidized meals, and some of them still function really well without that. Like Chapter 39 in Asotin County, they don't do free lunches, and they consistently have like 30 people at their meeting. So it really depends. The meal is a great way to get people who you're not sure where their head's at in regards to what the chapter does and what the organization's purpose is, just to get them in the door and to sit down and be in the environment, be in the culture, and get to hear about what we do and how it's going to benefit them. Another tip from Judith: refer to newsletters from other chapters on the RPEC website to get ideas for your chapter. Alma Jean. There's a lot of value in this because every one of us are very different. All the chapter presidents are very different. So everyone has a completely different way of thinking and how they go about this. So there's a lot of usefulness in, I guess, just being curious and seeing what other chapters are doing and what's working for them. I can tell you right now, all the chapter newsletters for the most part are extremely different. And there are some things that I see that people that really sticks out to them. And one of those things would be like the free meals. That's a really big ticket item for especially new members. All right. And to develop a culture with a strong sense of community. I think that would be a good example of like what I was saying about chapter 39. They have the same, like 30 people consistently attend and they only have 69 members in their whole chapter. They've developed a strong culture, a strong community where everyone wants to capitalize on the opportunities to be in the same room with one another and actually make an effort to make collective change. And so that strong sense of community, that chapter culture, it's got to be strong to keep everybody together. Another tip from Judith, have a way for members to submit written suggestions. This can be in regards to, guest speakers, social gatherings like the holiday party stuff. There's a lot of opportunity to where you can give members some say in what the chapter is doing for chapter meetings. What chapter 46 does is at the bottom of the agenda, they have these little tear off rectangles, kind of like what you would see for like someone who lost their cat and posted a flyer. It's just a little rectangle you can rip off of it. You can write something down on it and turn it into the president. That's what Judith uses to get suggestions from her members for what they want to do and who they want to hear speak to them. And I think there's a lot of power in that because you're empowering your members to actually have choice, to actually have say in what the decision's going to be. And that's them having choice about how their money is being used. Extremely important. Any comments on any of these before I continue on with more tips? Yeah, Marva.
Yeah, I know I'm getting to be a pain.
No, you're totally fine, Marva.
We've seen some of that in our chapter because before COVID, I think in 2018 and 19, Sandy had some back issues and subsequent surgery. So instead of allowing myself or Teresa, and at the time, Bob Wheeler was vice president, instead of letting us carry on and have the meetings, she decided we were going to do it quarterly. And a lot of our members didn't like that because, we're older, they have doctor's appointments. They want to know that they can make, that they've got this thing to go to on the second Wednesday of the month at a certain time and depend on it. And then when it goes, and it's every 4 months, they forget about it or every 3 months and they get involved in other things. And I've heard from several of our members when I've emailed them, well, can we count on setting up for Wednesdays? Can we make sure that we have this on Wednesdays? And you can't be sporadic about it. And the Zoom meetings are great, but when you get a lot of people that are in their late 70s or 80s, I mean, I'm in my late 70s, but I'm a tech freak. But a lot of these people, Zoom is just totally foreign to them. And we've got, and I think that the meetings, the people have got to realize that we are going to have those meetings and that we're going to be there and they're going to be consistent. And, and not just because one of the leaders is sick or has other issues that they got to take care of, stop the meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We had that issue right after COVID. We did one, then Sandy wanted to go back to the Zooms. And then we did some more. And then she didn't want to do November. She wanted that on Zoom because she doesn't want to drive to Bremerton. And, you can't do that. If you expect people to come out, they need to depend and be able to count on the fact that, yes, there's going to be a meeting, not one month at the bowling alley and 1 month on Zoom and 1 month not at all.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, there's got to be some consistency to get members to stay bought into what the chapter is doing. Thanks, Marva.
We used to get 25, 30 people up until we changed down to every 3 or 4 months. And now we're lucky to get 10. And I'm trying to change that. Like I said, I email them every time before a meeting, but some of the email addresses come back, and I don't know. I've had to make my own list because you guys send out all these names and lists in their emails, but you don't just give us a plain old email list. So, and just having our members' emails with their name and email without all the other stuff, so we could just easily use it and not make our own would work be nice too.
Yeah, usually the chapter rosters that I send out just have their name, their phone number, their email, and then an address.
Yeah.
If something with just an email is something that is going to be useful for multiple chapters, that's something that we can definitely talk about doing. That's not a bad idea, Marva. Thank you.
I think having just a name and email address so we could add it without, and like for me, because I go through those lists you send, and I mine the email addresses out and the names, and sometimes they get mixed up, and it's really it takes hours to formulate a list to make sure they're all right to the right people. So
yeah, and so one of the other files I do send out to you with those reports is, it's called the alpha export. I don't know if you use Excel at all, Marva, but
yeah, I do, and that's
okay.
how I do it. I go from there, and I just mine the names and the email, take all the columns out and put the names of emails together. Yeah, and then exactly. I have to copy them to another program, because they don't work well from Excel to Office, to my email, my office email. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's definitely something that we here at the office can explore doing for you guys, if that would make it any easier. So thanks for the suggestion, Marva. Heard, Marva, heard. Hey, Carol, what do you got to say?
I just want to say that here in Pierce County, it's very difficult to find a free private room for a meeting at a restaurant. And, we're struggling with that. Chapter 1 can't find a place at all. They haven't had an in-person meeting in a long time because they didn't like the space they were in. They moved to another space. They didn't like that. And now they have like nowhere. My chapter, our restaurant closed, and it was a perfect space, but it closed and became a pot store. And so we moved to another restaurant that had a private room, but it's so noisy from the restaurant patrons, you can hardly hear each other, and the space is small, so we can fit less people in the room. And we haven't been able to find an adequate space that's free. All the places want you to guarantee a certain cost amount for the meals, or they want you to pay for the room, and then you pay for your meals separately. And it's really a problem here. And Chapter 10 has a restaurant they meet in, but it's there's no privacy in that room. Other patrons, other groups can come in and use the space as well. And it just really is a terrible problem for us. And I don't know, I would like to know how many chapters are actually paying for space to use, because that may be what we have to do. And my members don't want to do that, I know, but if we can't have, an adequate meeting space for our membership where people can hear what's going on, there's not much point, So I'd like to know if other chapters are paying for rooms to use.
We are, and we have a deal with All Star Lanes that if we have a certain amount of money coming in from the lunches, then we don't. That if we like this this last meeting, we had 8 people there, then we do pay, and we pay $100 for 2 hours.
Thank you, Martha.
Yeah, if anybody else knows if their chapter is paying for a meeting room at this point, feel free to speak up and let people know of your situation. Okay. Doesn't seem like we have anybody else. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Marva, for your comments about meeting locations. This kind of brings us back to the discussion about how, Zoom meetings are going to be a lot of the future for meetings for these reasons. We're seeing rooms that were previously free costing money. prices are going up in general for meals. So it's a challenge, and it's going to continue to be a challenge. And what I can say is that we're going to offer to help you guys as much as we can. But the landscape of communication is it's transforming rapidly. Robert.
Yeah, hi guys.
Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. We've had that problem too with our restaurants. They would have an area for us to be large enough, but then there'd be other people come in, other customers, and it'd be wild. So we have changed our location to the Homestead Restaurant. And Jacob, I've invited you for the first Thursday, and we're looking forward to having you there. So
Thank you, Robert.
At the Homestead, there is a little room off to the side. It seems to be a little bit more private. The manager there said that he'd give us a shot for a few months on it. And then it sounded to me like, you know, if we have a large enough group, he'll probably say, okay, or if it's a small group like we usually do, we'll probably be charged. The members also said that years ago that they were there. So we have bounced around from AA to or AAA, other restaurants. And it is difficult to find a good place to have a good meeting. And so it's important to us to be able to be consistent with where our meeting place is and holding a good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Absolutely. Consistency is extremely important for your members' participation. And that's what makes this challenge so great. So thanks for all the comments from leaders on this topic.
Okay. On one more thing, I just had a thought, you know, since Wednesday we had to pay $150. We do pay, have our members give the treasurer $10, and then we pay everybody's lunch. And so everybody gets to eat for $10. But I was thinking, if we spend all this money on restaurants, why not, you know, like rent a room from a church or someplace like that and just cater each meeting? That might even be a cheaper solution, and then you would have more privacy.
That's true. That's a good point as well, Marva. Yeah, that's worth looking into, and that's something I'll note so that when I start having conversations with presidents about meeting challenges and meeting location challenges, we can have discussions like this. So thanks for bringing that up, Marva. Robert, did you have another comment, and is your hand just still up? Oh, okay. All right, so moving on to more from Judith Fry. So covering the purpose of newsletters. So newsletters do a lot of things for us, a lot of things for the chapters. First off, they provide a meeting notice. That's their initial purpose. When there's a meeting coming up, we create a newsletter for it, and that gives us an opportunity to include any relevant information or upcoming events that our members need to be informed about. So it also provides updates on any of our legislative issues, whether that be our actual legislative priorities or just legislative issues that affect our members in general, whether that be for anything Medicare related, Social Security, things like that. Newsletters also, and so obviously this is talking from the perspective of Judith and what the contents of her newsletter is like as well, because she specified that she uses the newsletter as an opportunity to provide information on the officers and any open positions in the chapter. So that way anybody who gets around to reading the newsletter can see that there's open positions to be filled with the chapter. A lot of chapters do summaries of previous meetings, like they'll have the meeting notes from the previous meeting on the upcoming meeting, just so that any members that didn't attend can know what happened at the meeting that they missed. But that's also kind of a double-edged sword, because kind of like what we talked about earlier is we don't want to over-inform members through a newsletter, because otherwise there's no reason for them to even attend a meeting in the first place. And we always send out the newsletters ahead of the meetings. So if people are getting these newsletters and there's more than enough detail on them, they're not going to likely turn around and go to a chapter meeting if they weren't a regular attendee. So there's a fine balance there, and it's a hard line to drive, and you have to kind of determine that on your own based on what your members are doing. Once again, the council office is available to help you however you need. You just reach out and we'll do what we can for you. Newsletters also provide links to websites that are relevant to seniors, not just the main big ticket stuff like Medicare and Social Security, but also like Judith had a bit about the for senior aging, the center, I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it provided information that is useful for seniors to know about what kind of risks they have and how they change as they age. What kind of things do you need to watch out for? What things do you need to address that maybe you aren't aware of yet? So things like that are useful. Anything that's useful to seniors, useful information for navigating retirement, being a senior, etc. It's extremely important to our members. Oops, I missed one. Okay. And last, for tips from Judith, it reaches members that are unable to attend meetings because there are always members that maybe even are out of state or have moved but wanted to stay in the chapter and they can't attend meetings anymore. You know, that's another benefit to Zoom, as much as a lot of people don't like it, is there's no barrier of distance to travel for people participating in meetings. Another tip is that I know that we only print newsletters in black and white, but any newsletters that get sent out also get posted to our website, and they are posted in color. So if you include color in your document, that doesn't mean that it's not going to be color online. It just means that the print is going to be in black and white. So I do encourage you, you know, if you have pictures, don't be discouraged to include them because we're going to print in black and white, because it is going to be seen on the website. So please feel free to provide pictures about what you guys do at your meetings, because sometimes that can be a good way to get other members involved. Yes, Debbie.
Yeah, we have the ability to get your newsletter electronically, and that way they get a newsletter in color. So yeah, that's been one of the pluses.
Absolutely. Thank you, Debbie. Yeah. Some chapters do email blasts for sending out their newsletters, which is just, you know, we have the newsletter in a PDF form. We send a big mass email out to any members of the chapter that have an email, and they get that newsletter in color in digital format. And PDF is very easy to use and simple. So it's a point and click situation for members. Carol.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring up fun, because some of my members will tell you they come to the meeting to socialize and to have fun. And so, you know, we try to do things from time to time that are unusual. Like the holiday event, we tell everybody to bring a gift, a wrapped gift valued at under $10 if they want to play a game. And when the meeting adjourns, we play this Christmas left-right game where they move the packages around based on a story that I tell them. We do that. At the beginning of winter or the beginning of summer, we do a book exchange, and we tell everybody to bring their used books and to trade or to share. And then in January, we'll ask members to bring whatever gifts they got that they don't want or can't use, or something in their home that they don't use anymore that's still really nice. And we do kind of a white elephant game. And so some of the people, they laugh, and, you know, we'll do the business and they'll say, well, here's the part I came for, you know, and it's a game, or it's, you know, it's some other function. It's after the meeting's adjourned. So it's not part of the business, but it's part of the fun. And it's a reason for people to socialize and to come out.
Absolutely. Thank you, Carol. Yeah, providing something other than just business news, new business is important, because some members are not as keen on just being a part of an organized effort in general. So yeah, that's a good comment. Thank you, Carol. Alma Jean. Glad you can make it, Alma Jean.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I was a little bit running late. Things sort of mushroom sometimes, and everything is happening at the same time. So I think the newsletter, particularly the chapter newsletter, is an opportunity to personalize it to fit your chapter's members and to differentiate that newsletter from the newsletters we get from the council. Chapter newsletters can have a personal thing, and people are able to read about each other in those newsletters and what they are doing to contribute to the overall purpose of RPEC. Little things sometimes, not a big thing. They look forward to seeing pictures of people that they know. They look forward to seeing whose birthday it is, who's passed away. Personalize it as when you can to make it unique from all the paper that we as seniors receive in the mailbox. Much of it, we throw it out. So it's important that it be unique to your chapter and the people that we know.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alma Jean. Yeah, that resonates with what we were discussing earlier about how you have to build the culture and the community of your chapter. And personalization of the materials that your members receive is important for building the culture and community of your chapter, because there's a certain vibe that you get that your members are familiar with. And so being able to personalize helps us address people on an individual level and on a chapter level, rather than a blanket type newsletter that's just got a very generic form to it. So yeah, great comment, Alma Jean. Thank you. Anybody else have a comment before I move forward? Go ahead, Lori.
I should know this, Jacob, but I don't. Do we have the newsletters posted on the website?
We do, yeah.
So my suggestion, I thought so, but I just wanted to suggest for anyone who's looking for creative ways to change up what they're doing, you know, there are many of you that expend a lot of time and energy to make your newsletters very unique, addressing some of the things that Carol and Alma Jean and others have shared. You know, take a few minutes and look at what's available that for the newsletters that are posted there. And that'll, you know, there's no greater compliment than to steal a good idea from somebody else. And no one will know. So if you see something that you think will work well with your members and it's embedded in another newsletter, then by all means, you know, borrow it, make it better. So you've got examples that you can draw from.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lori. And, you know, I know not all of you are responsible for doing the newsletters for your chapters. I know a lot of you are, but communicating to the other officers in your chapter that participate in the newsletters to, yeah, look at other chapters' newsletters on our website. Encourage your officers to do that, because you might find that you have a little bit more freedom than you initially thought in creating something cohesive and engaging to your members. Thank you again, Lori. Okay, moving forward, working with new members. So how can we get new members more involved? Empowering them with responsibilities that are appropriate for what you think they can take on, you know, so start small. Allow somebody to be a greeter, you know, ask a new member, hey, would you like to greet members as they come into the meeting? If you can get them to buy into the small responsibilities, you'll see if they're gonna bloom into something more like an officer for the chapter. Officers should be following up regularly with new members. I have an idea of developing a timeline sort of thing for a consistent process for how we follow up with new members. I'd love to discuss with each chapter further on that about what they think would be an appropriate kind of like a schedule, you know, like within a certain time period, when are we going to reach out to the member? What are the specific things that we want to look for that are in place for them so that their participation can be 100% and that they're invested? So that's going to be a development that's going to take some time, but I think is extremely important to the success of each chapter. Always encourage new members to attend a chapter meeting. You know, tell them, like, I know you're not sure what, you know, if this is something that you're about, but you don't have to apply, but at least come check out a meeting and see if it's something you're interested in, because that's going to tell people right away if what's discussed in the meetings is going to be relevant and important to them. It's a good screening tool, honestly, to determine whether or not a potential member is going to be a good fit. How to identify and nurture new members. Look at their employment history, or what organizations they were a part of. We have members who have been in leadership roles for other organizations. A great example is Carol. She was the president of WFC at one point in time, and she's been instrumental in helping us develop relationships with other labor organizations. So she's a great example. She's a chapter president, and she started out in a different leadership role in her career. So this has been, like WFC folks have been a really useful resource for us, because a lot of them have served, they've been organized. They are very familiar with the processes that go on in a union, and we function a lot like a union in that sense. So always be exploring with new members what their history was in their career, in their volunteer work, and any organized efforts that they've been a part of, because you might find that they can be really instrumental to your chapter. Passion equals position. You want to give tasks to members that mirror their motivations. You don't want to give them a task that is going to be mundane and boring to them. You want them to be invested in it. And you have to make this judgment based on each person that you interact with. It's not always easy, but getting to know the member thoroughly, what their history is, what their objectives are, what it is that they're seeking by being a part of RPEC. Those are important questions to ask, because then you can utilize that information to give them direction and give them responsibilities that are appropriate for them. Okay. And lastly, provide clear instructions and expectations to new members. You don't want to leave any questions unanswered as they're easing into becoming a member of the organization. It's kind of it's a big ominous thing joining a member-based organization, especially if you don't know anybody that's in the group that you're joining. So you want to make sure that there's clear communication about what it is that they're going to need to do, what is expected of them. Be clear to them that they can ask questions and they don't have to know what's going on, and it's okay. They can work into it. There's got to be complete clarity between leadership and the new members. Does anybody have any comments or questions before I move on? Okay. All right. So next is going to be qualities of a great leader. Now, first off, if you don't have all these qualities, it doesn't mean you're not a great leader. These are all skills that can be cultivated. Anybody can do these things. You have to just make an effort to do so. So first off, having self-awareness. You have to be able to understand how your actions affect others, how the vibe that you give off is perceived by others. You have to have self-awareness about your actions, about the way you communicate. You have to be constantly assessing what you're saying and what you're doing, because you have to be screening it for effectiveness. Credibility. You have to be somebody who's credible, because you need your members to believe in you and your leadership ability, and to believe that you're going to do what you're saying you're going to do. That's extremely important. That's accountability as well. Relationship building. Relationships are the foundation of organized efforts. So you have to build strong relationships with your members as a leader, because they're going to respect you more. They're going to seek you out. They're going to want to contribute and help you out more. Then you have that community effort going. Bias for action. You have to be a go-getter. You have to be somebody who's going to take action when action is needed. You got to be a doer. You got to have that can-do attitude and take a leap, take initiative. You have to exhibit humility. We're all human. Being a leader doesn't make you any less human than anybody else. Yeah, you have to have some sense of shame and humility for when you make mistakes, or when you do things that maybe aren't the best things that you've done. And that's just what makes us human. And accepting that and taking responsibility for those actions, that's a huge part of being a leader. A great leader also empowers their team. A person empowers their team by giving them responsibility, kind of like what we talked about before. Empowers the team by making them all feel useful, important, and needed. Everybody wants to feel those three things: useful, important, and needed. Everybody, any group that we're a part of, that's what we want. Authenticity. You got to be speaking from a point of reality, being authentic. If it's not, if you're not being authentic about the way that you lead, you're not representing yourself. You have to be constant and consistent. I know Marva mentioned some things about consistency, like with the chapter meetings. Being constant and consistent is extremely important because it gives a sort of routine to members. Being constant and consistent with your behavior and how you execute tasks is going to be important because your members have to have an understanding of how you operate. You want to be clear on that. As a great leader, you also have to be a good role model. You have to set a good example for other members, and that's going to help cultivate the officers out of new members as well. You have to demonstrate what a good leadership looks like, what good organization looks like. And lastly, a great leader is present in their work with members. When they've got their feet on the ground, they're working just as hard, just as dirty as any of the other members. You have to be present with what's important. You can't just be always caught up in what your responsibilities are as a leader, because your responsibilities are to your members first and foremost. Any comments about qualities of a great leader? Okay, and once again, you know, these are all things that I doubt any of us have all 10 of these things. These are qualities of a great leader, and these are things that you can develop, like I said. So I'd be more than willing to have discussions with people just to try to get an understanding where maybe you feel like there's some falling out, or you feel like maybe there could be some improvement. So Alma Jean.
Years working with employee groups in an academic setting was my ability to let go. Sometimes leaders, because they have all the ideas, they know what to do, to hone in on the creativity of the people you work with. You need to sometimes let go. And it doesn't matter if it isn't at what you call your standard. It is an opportunity to, as you say, give them responsibility, recognize their creativity. And out of that nervousness of you wondering if they're going to do something wrong, sometimes they come across with some ways of doing things that you would have never thought about. And the bottom line is, as a leader, you get credit. But it took me a while to I was nervous to let go. You want to tell them what to do and where to go and how you do this, and turn it loose, let go. Put the ideas out there, but let the creativity flow.
Absolutely. That's a great comment, Alma Jean. Yeah, getting caught up in the I'm the idea person thing, that's an issue. You got to be able to accept the contributions of your chapter, your community. Thank you, Alma Jean. Any other comments about this? Okay. Before briefly just going over some reminders, does anybody have any comments, questions, concerns that they wanted to bring up about this presentation or regarding their chapter in leadership? Please do. Okay, it doesn't look like we have any. Oh, Lori, go ahead. Would you? Yeah.
There were just two quick things in chat, and this was back to other discussion items, but just a quick shout out to Debbie. She had, her wondering was, does the council office have a list of speakers that chapters might be able to consider? And the answer is, I think we may have had one in the past, but we did not, there's not one that's been updated or made available in my tenure with the organization. And so it's a great suggestion, Debbie. And, you know, it's something that Jacob and I will talk about. And I think it's something he can tackle in the new year and make available for our chapter leaders. So thank you for that insight. And then I also wanted to just mention a comment made by Steve in chat. Unless you want to speak to it, Steve, do you want to just do that? Or I can just do it real quick. Steve was just saying that when we were talking about topics that really were well received by members, he offered that in chapter 16 in Yakima, the county auditor spoke about elections and voting counting accuracy and security in the mail system, which, you know, is another outstanding topic. So I think, you know, Steve's suggestion illustrates that there's a lot of topics that could have viability with your members. A lot of good ideas were shared when we covered that topic, and we just missed it in chat. But I love the idea of maybe even taking what Debbie was sharing about people who could be speakers, and maybe we could expand that in some topic areas that folks may want to consider. So that's it. Just wanted to bring that back around. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Lori. I would be more than happy to develop kind of like a personalized guest speaker list that can be kind of comprehensive. You know, it's always going to be a work in progress just because legislators change. But I think that can be a very useful idea to just have like a general list of, I don't know what we would want the minimum amount to be, but a good list of multiple speakers to choose from. And that would give your chapter some choice as well. That would come into play with giving members the option to kind of vote on who their speaker is as well. So we can talk about that on a chapter level. Go ahead, Carol.
I just wanted to remind everybody that we do have some Council 2 members. So county and municipal government people are important to them. And if we want to grow our membership, you know, in that regard, we need to cater to their needs as well.
That's a very good point, Carol. Yeah, there's, you know, our members come from different walks of public service, and some guest speakers might not have something to say that's as relevant to some members as others. So that's a very great point, Carol. Thanks for bringing that up. And I want to say I apologize for anybody I missed in chat. With sharing screen, chat is in the way. So I missed that, and my apologies with that. Okay, so moving forward, we're going to wrap it up with talking about promoting Ledge Day. Make sure you notify members in your chapter, included in your chapter newsletter, which I know I've already sent out quite a few of newsletters for chapters, and we did include Ledge Day information. So thank you to everyone who got a chapter newsletter ready in time to send to me before the Woofsy print house was closed. Do an email distribution. You can always work with us on doing email blasts. I'd be more than willing to take the time to sit down with one of you on Zoom to cover the process of doing an email blast. Another is utilizing robocalls. For those that don't have email, robocalls is a good option. A phone tree, which would be taking a group of your members collectively and dividing up members that need to be contacted, splitting it up amongst each other to make phone calls. Phone trees are really good examples. I know chapter 3 uses those. Carol, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, if you use robocall, you can have that robocall also go out as an email, so that if people don't answer their phones, and some don't because of all the scams, if they go into their email, they'll get your voice recording there.
Perfect. Okay. I was going to ask if it was a voice recording or if it was like a transcript or something, but okay. So yeah, it sounds like it attaches an actual media file to the email so they can actually listen to that voicemail. So yeah, just another cool little perk with robocalls. And so I don't know if I thought I saw Colleen join, but Colleen of chapter 3, she pilots a phone tree for their chapter each year, and it proves to be pretty effective for them in getting these contact lists gone through in a pretty quick fashion without having to rely on robocall. So then you still get that personal aspect of talking to people on the phone, but you have to be able to rein in members that are willing to contribute and help on that level.
Colleen, I agree.
Oh yeah. Thanks, Colleen. Yeah, if you have anything else to say along that, feel free. Otherwise, thanks for your efforts in running a phone tree for Chapter 3.
Well, I should say that since COVID, we have had a drastic fall in the number of volunteers for that task as well as many others. So I'm in the process of trying to gather a bunch more people. We don't know how it's going to look, but we'll do what we can do with phone trees, because there are people that have a real issue about wanting to make friends out of the group of people that they call.
Ah.
And I think that's real important for that person-to-person contact.
That's great.
And then we'll supplement with robocalls. That's for the first time in the areas that we cannot cover with the volunteers, because I'm a firm believer in person-to-person contact, no matter what the task is. We even had one gal on making a call find out that the 90-year-old woman she was talking to, that woman's mother worked with this gal in the 70s. They had an awful lot to talk about. And that was a unique connection.
That's great.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Colleen. That's great. Yeah, the social butterflies amongst our chapters, I could see them serving us very well in phone trees, taking it upon themselves to reach out to people and getting that socializing as well. Go ahead, Marva.
Yeah, just what Colleen was saying, and I was sitting here thinking about that, and all of our members, we have so many, like, well, I live alone too, and I'm a widow, but I have a lot of friends and grandkids that hang around, but there are so many who are isolated and lonely, and I think especially this time of year, it might be nice. And a person in my chapter and I are going to do this, but to call out and reach out to some of these people and make sure they're okay. They have things they need. Do they have heat? Do they have food? Do they have, what are their needs if they're not able to get out? And to care about it, just not to worry about just all the legislative stuff, but to actually let members know that we really care about their physical being and who they are as a person.
That's great, Marva. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. We don't want to be making our members out to be just a piece of a chessboard. We care about what happens to them outside of their participation in the organization. We want them to be well. So yeah, thank you, Marva, for that good reminder to all of us that we're all still human, and our needs, our actual needs, matter more than anything else. So thank you. And lastly, any chapters or individuals that have Facebook and have members that they're friends with on Facebook, that's another great tool to communicate chapter meetings, because you can do group messages on there, or you can even create a Facebook page for your chapter and just make posts directly on there that people can go and see. And they could even set themselves up to be notified when posts are made on the Facebook page. Okay. So here's the link for how to register for Legislative Day. Registration closes on January 11th. So if there are any members floating around that you know are wanting to attend but haven't registered yet, please encourage them with some urgency to get registered as soon as possible.
Keep that up for a second. I'm copying it.
Yeah, go for it. Absolutely. I'll leave it up for a minute if anybody else wants to copy it.
Got it.
Great. Lori, go ahead.
It's also available on the website. So if
you
go to the website, it's prominently featured, and you'll be able to click on the link and register right through the website.
Thanks for the clarification on that, Lori. Yes, you can find it right on our homepage there. So, okay. And then just some dates to save. First day of the legislative session is going to be on January 9th. Reiterating that registration deadline is January 11th. So please get that in as soon as possible. Our legislative day will be on January 30th from 9 to 5 p.m. Can't wait to see members here for that. And our first legislative update call will be on January 13th from 2 to 3 p.m. And I think, Lori, you had said that they're every Friday starting the 13th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, there will be other legislative calls each Friday following the 13th as well. So, all right. Any comments, best practices, questions? All right. Oh, go ahead, Carol.
Is it going to be at the same time of day, 2 to 3 every time?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that'll be the standing time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, if nobody has any other questions, Lori, is there anything else that you'd like? Oh, Claire, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thanks, Jacob, for yet another wonderful presentation and meeting.
Thank
Very
you, Claire, and
informative.
thanks, Marva.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you, guys. Yeah, I really appreciate the feedback on that. Thank you, guys. I'm really enjoying being able to work with you guys on growing your chapter and making our work even more meaningful than it already is. Thank you. Go ahead, Lori.
Just quickly, I wanted to share with you that our council office will be closed starting on December 23rd. We'll be closed through January 2nd. We reopen for business on January 3rd. So during that period, there will be no one in the council office. And I think then just a close, it's so wonderful again that you've spent the time to be with us today to hear some of the things shared by Jacob and all of you. It's been a great discussion. We invite you to participate in these leadership calls every month. They'll resume again in January. And we've had a wonderful year at RPEC, and thank you for all of your contributions. And we hope that each of you have a beautiful rest of the holiday season and a very, very, very happy New Year's, where you have good health and that you just have a great 2023. That's what we wish for all of us, that we will see us all back in a couple, 3 weeks to get cracking on our legislative priorities and to do what we do best in RPEC, which is serve our members. So thank you for all of your work, and we hope you have a beautiful holiday season. Carol, your hand went up.
I know I'm a problem today. I can't shut up.
Carol.
I just wanted to take a minute to praise you, Lori, and thank you for all the work that you've done with RPEC. I think you were the best hiring decision we've made in a long time, and I'm very pleased with the staff you have brought on board or promoted and worked with, and I just want to thank you for all the hard work you did in 2022.
Yeah, thank you, Lori.
Very much. Thank you very much. And we do have a great team. We are richly, richly blessed. We definitely are. We've got good people like Jacob, who's been with us, by the way. His 3-month anniversary is creeping up on us. And
I think it was on Monday.
Did I miss it? Oh, it was Monday. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he just passed the 3-month mark, and you'd never know it. One of our members used a phrase with me that sometimes things fit like an old glove, and he fits like an old glove in RPEC. So we're really delighted he's with us, and we have a great team. So thank you so much for that, Carol.
Yeah, thank you, Carol.
Thank you. We've had one heck of a year. It's been a great year, and we put out some information about some of the successes that we've had collectively. Some of those were a roundup in the executive director report that came out for December, but then we just had some good news that one of our priorities was highlighted in the governor's preliminary budget. So we've just got a great start to leverage together for 23.
All great news. Thank you, Lori. All right. And so, Lori provided those dates for when the office is going to be closed. That's starting next Friday. So if you're trying to get a hold of us, before the end of the day, Thursday. And then we won't be back in the office till the Tuesday after New Year's. So thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you for your contributions, both in this call and in your chapters. And I look forward to the next monthly leadership call that I get to do with you guys. All right, everyone, have a happy holidays. Take care.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great holiday.
Stay safe.
Be safe.